What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? Day traders, closet swing traders. Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Hope you guys are feeling good. Hope you guys are hanging in there. We did have some big numbers coming in today. I think the reaction was more weighted for CPI. I think that was the more of maybe a topsy-turvy one, where a little more excitement for it. But PPI is actually really what the Fed goes off of. So kind of actually more important. But they came in light. Jobless numbers came in slightly light, so not too bad of numbers. Not a huge reaction from the market. But what I like to see even more is AJ and House. Good morning to you. Good morning to Albert. Good morning to Andy, Bill, Frank, Joe, Kevin, Lauren, Malik. Good morning to Martina, Rob, Tim, my people out of YouTube land. All of my people creeping in. We got LC, Big Dream. Good morning. Paul Osborne. Good morning. Wyatt is in the house. Real Virtual Demand says, you know what I like. It's crypto. All right, we'll take a look. We got Clarice. Good morning, Joe. Good morning. And yeah, we got some tickers coming in already. All right, let's see. But right now, here was the 8:30 print from when the jobless numbers came out and PPI came out. We did have a initial spike that kind of almost tried to hold. So there it is. Nice little jump up on it. I think the news was good, but if we're looking at the news from yesterday too, uh, we kind of faded that news pretty quickly. So at least right now the Bulls are trying to gain a little bit of steam. Not too bad here. Look for big resistance, probably about 559.05, at least in a short term. So pre-market levels, if we get above it, not bad. On a daily perspective, the real big volume is right around that zone, but I got 559.08. So if we could get a little bit higher, that would get us some room into probably about the 561.16 zone. But if we get a pullback inside day, pullback could be likely. That is 557.88. So a little bit of a tight range on the SPY for right now, unless something crazy happens pre-market. The other news is that I think the Trump administration is speaking with Russia today. I think they're in Russia. So we might see some headlines in regards to negotiations between the Russians and the Ukrainians. We'll see if any of that develops. Obviously, any news that comes out of that will be random times, and just watch your stops just in case one way or the other. Or if you got the right direction, maybe that pushes you to the targets today. We will see. We will see. Other than that, yeah, very, very interesting spot for open. I would love to see this creep up a little bit more. Yesterday was a gap and go. It kind of was just inside day, retrace. I think the Bulls still have a little bit of momentum from it, but let's see if we get through that resistance first. Otherwise, even some sideways chop for day traders, not great, but sideways chop for another day or two, and then we start to break out, would be decent as long as we're not just catching a falling knife again. Q's very similar position as a SPY. So yesterday was a gap and go kind of opening. They had a chance. They were a little bit stronger. I think they're a little bit stronger today than the SPY as well. So look for any tech stocks. See if it could rally a little bit more. But relatively inside from we've got to get above 477.18 if we can climb through that. Great. Next target. I think we have to still look at this candle, this March 10th highs or opening price, 483.44. And if we can close through that at all, the next target after that, which I don't think is today, but 489.70, unless we get some crazy news or random headlines that kind of come out. All right, let's go to Bitcoin for real virtual demands. He's putting all his funds into Monopoly money, which is nice. USD. Let's see the crypto space we got. Uh, it's either Monopoly money or the wave of the future. One of them. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. But Bitcoin, we got right now bearish gap and go from yesterday's open and close. Obviously, this is still a live candle. The good news, the hopium, is that you did bounce off of this 82,284 next level down. That should hold support. If we end up breaking through that one, would be about 81,823. That's a potential to get to. But as long as we're in that range, not bad. Just kind of hanging out. You still have this notable bullish engulfing candle, a little bit of a pullback, and then maybe it wants to take off. But for right now, I think the overall trend has been still just kind of, at least the overall trend is bullish. But the last, kind of like the rest of the market, just kind of hanging out. You have this double bottom. You really want to see some kind of new higher high on this one. We still kind of doing that lower low thing. But other than that, we'll see. And then obviously if any crypto news, but Bitcoin kind of just hanging out for now. So nothing real too crazy in that one. All right, first ticker I see is Nvidia. So we'll take a look at that. If you guys have other tickers, let me know. I see a bunch more in YouTube as well. Otherwise, we got Nvidia. Um, Tight range, really, really strong support or resistance around 117.30. So if we could break through that, if we could close above that, that might set us up for a little bit of a bigger bounce. That's my one big hesitation to this one is a 117.30. It is also a retest gap as well. I think you have to be patient on your entry. Try to get as close as possible to 115.62. We're about split in the middle between that support and resistance. So if the overall market wants to bounce, Nvidia is still okay priced at this point. It's not horrible, but and you did hold this 107 level. So again, there's signs that there's like a little bit of opium bulls trying. But every time we've seen the bulls come in, you end up making longer term lower lows, and that kind of has to stop for us to really get some bullish sentiment going. Or again, some kind of news that would really start to spike the market, and I'm not sure where that comes from. We got through most of the earnings already; those are out there. The other one in a similar space would be Broadcom that I think is kind of interesting. This one had a pretty decent retest gap. We've come down, we've retested, we held on to this 92.42 level. And I think this one is again, they actually had really good earnings, not bad earnings at least. They beat by 6.12%, so 9 cents. They beat by 300 million in revenue. I they gapped up pretty nicely on earnings and just kind of gave it all back. And now you're just hovering around this 200 EMA. So you do have that 100, you got the 20, you got the 50 above you as well, but probably a little bit of a tight range. But this one, I think, for maybe even a swing trade, something like that, would be a decent location to start looking. And then I think your final stop on this one is probably somewhere around 180, 162. But red candle from yesterday, but I think it is a retest and it held support fairly well. If we can get some momentum going, I think AVGO, I have this one on my list just in case. Adobe had earnings yesterday. They are getting a pretty significant gap down. They also not bad earnings. They did beat earnings per share by 2%. They also came in with an extra 52 million in revenue above expectations. Adobe depends on where this one opens. I don't think it was really priced for perfection. I think it's more of a testament to where we are in the market cycle of things where kind of doesn't really matter about the news, just sell everything type situation. Uh, Biggest issue that I have. So I got two things on this one. One depends on where we open, and we are opening just under a really big support. That makes me want to lean for continued bearish play. So if we open anywhere below 407.95, I don't know for day trade wise how easy this is going to be because you will have a psychological level from the closing price of January 10th. So that would get you like 405.78. And then if that breaks, you still have another psychological level, which would probably be a big one. Bulls want to probably try to save that. But that would take us down to like 404.24. So if you could make your targets in there, I think you have a good shot at this one. Maybe you wait for like a little bounce first, try to get back up into that 407.70 zone. You're going to want to try to make as much room as possible on this trade. The other thing, though, that will really help the bear case, and maybe this is a spot we could kind of break down on this pivot. I don't know for day trade, Because again, you have two decent levels of spots where bulls probably try to protect. Otherwise, I have no volume. I got one spike down to like 396.40, but really until you get down to like 375. So it does have a lot of room. There's really not much holding this thing back. Um, Again, if we could break down this pivot today, I think it's good. And you are down a lot already though today too. So we'll have to see how this one kind of goes. I think for the day trade for today could be a little tough. But in a longer term aspect, I think it is a little bit broken unless it starts to recapture again and starts getting above 408.33. Then you're going to look for maybe a bigger retest and then maybe second attempt. Maybe we have to curl up first, but we'll see. Intel. hmm New CEO. So this one looks a little bit different. They could have maybe waited on that CEO for a little bit longer. Um, got to some better market conditions to release some news. I think in a normal market, this stock being as beat up as it is getting a pretty good gap up this morning, but a heck of a lot of resistance. And we've seen even from just the AVGO or not AVGO. Oh yeah, AVGO and Adobe earnings. The good news doesn't always mean anything, right? People are like, okay, here's my shot to kind of get out. In a normal market, I think that would have, I think you get a lot more momentum in here. So watch some resistance around this spot where we're opening at 2378. A lot of times, most of the times, when you hear the new CEO, and we'll see if Intel is so beat up, but we'll see if the news kind of plays out like other new CEO newses. Uh, you get that initial like, yeah, we're running. This is a ship change, and then you get that kind of fade back. So we've already done this part, and we didn't do this one yet. So I don't know. This might be a fade to look for. I don't know if I want to go short on it today, but this would be a very, very interesting spot to go short. If we start breaking some of this out, or if we do close relatively strong today, that could have set us up for a little bit of a bigger run. Maybe we could finally get those. I mean, we had a phenomenal run here, and we gave that all back as well. So if this is an opportunity to get past that pivot, we get some more candles starting to close above $27, something like that. That might set you up into the 30 range longer term. But yeah, just for a point proven what what happened when Trump was elected. The market went like this, and now where's the market? So new president, new CEO, seems like it kind of works the same way. But most of those are fadeable gaps. Intel, we'll see how this one plays out. But it is doing something different than the rest of the market for the most part. Looks a little stronger. Just got to be concerned about some of that potential resistance. And I was waiting for the CEO news. I can't imagine other people are like, yeah, we'll probably pop when we get a new CEO. So is it sell the news? I don't know. We'll see, we'll see how this one plays out. AAL. I see Hood in there too. TTD looked very interesting. Starting to get to some interesting spots. Yeah, we'll cover that one for sure. Um, AAL is at a pretty decent support. It looks like this will be a catch the knife situation. I don't see any real pivots. No real pivots on this just disaster downtrend that we're having. That being said, in a longer term basis, I like it under $12. Really, we've had spots where we kind of bounced under here. So if you're trying to accumulate some shares, some positions, longer term, this is not a bad spot. Uh, I don't have any airlines in my long term. I just don't like airlines. It's just very, very tough business, very cyclical, depends on fuel prices, gas prices, travel, the economy. Do we hit recession? If we're in a recession, all airlines and travel, all those stocks just get beat up. Nobody's got the extra money. So it becomes very, very tough to hold something like this in a long term when there's so many other variables that would affect it. But if you're trying to build it as maybe a pyramid, you could probably look for some kind of pyramid with levels. I think at today's price is probably an interesting starter position if you're going 10% of your position. I would say if you get down to like $10, that would be level two for about 20% of your position. I think if you get down to kind of the lows, which is, and I'm being pretty greedy, I think, with my entries, but somewhere around like 925, I'd put maybe another 30% of your position, and then somewhere just in case you make one new lower low somewhere around like 850, I'd probably go 40%. But something like that if you want to try to build out a pyramid on this one, because it has bounce, and when it bounces, it's decent. But right now, I would not put all my chips on the table into AAL at this price. I've got no real significant signs that we are letting up from the selling quite yet. Volume is actually picking up on the sell side of things. So right now, the only interesting thing is you do have a little bit of longer term kind of support out here. With today, you have gap up. So it is a slight gap and go, but we're not even clearing this 1099, so I don't know how strong it will be. If we start getting back above 11, you might see a little bit of a pop. Um, but you're gonna have to fight a lot of bears that are eagerly selling their shares, and any bulls that took that ride up, they're pretty much sat there through 5 months, 5, 6 months, and their position size is the same. Like they've made no real money if they didn't sell. So probably some frustrated bulls on this one. Let's see, we got TTD, and then we'll take a look at Hood. The trade desk is getting down to some fairly interesting valuations for the company. Uh, Another one that's an incredible gap down. We are below all of that volume, so none of that is kind of holding. Maybe if this one could come down a little bit more, give me like another $10, and that might be where I start a longer term position on TTD because I do like the company. I think they're fine. They do make a decent amount of money. They're growing. I think a lot of people don't really know what they do, so it's a tough company to hold. But yeah, good double bottom. You're starting to get in some interesting levels for today. It does not seem like it's marking the spot for a rebound whatsoever. We have another gap down. The beating just absolutely continues. And again, to the higher side for right now, I think it's going to be a little tough. But you do have the low of yesterday's candle holding us together. If you could get a bounce today, you're probably getting a bounce into this 59-55 zone. You have some risk to reward as long as yesterday's candle doesn't break down. But again, to the way up, you get about $1.20, and I would be out. Otherwise, somewhere right around there, or maybe if you get back into like 60-33, probably playing the trend and not trying to be the hero and play the reversal on TTD for today would be just stay short for right now. So I think it's still sell the rip until we start breaking out and clearing some of these pivots. Seems like a sell the rip still. Coin, but it is starting to get to some interesting levels. I said Hood was next, but then I saw Coin. So let's see what Coin's doing. Not a good open. Um, that kind of looks rough. Bitcoin is, like we said, was down a little bit. You have even that pivot is kind of getting taken out at this point. I think you have room probably to, well, at a shorter end of things, you probably have room into 185.84. So that's still $6 roughly to the downside. I I we've been there twice now. If we get back down there, I think that can break, and then you have 181.09. We've also been down there before, so technically that is a little bit weaker. It's probably still decent support, but I think it's a little bit weaker. And then your next spot, which we almost got to, is 176.34, and then if that breaks, I think your next spot is actually 167.68. So Coinbase still looking a little bit rough. And then if we don't get cooperation from Bitcoin itself, this might be a rough journey for Coinbase. So I actually like this one a lot to the short side. I'm gonna get that one pretty high on the list. Maybe we see a pop first. If we can get some kind of pop into like 191.13, that's probably your better spot. Get yourself some better risk reward. But however you want to get in, it looks short to me. Hood, is, I don't know. I got too many lines. Hold on. Way too many. Let's see. Hood is kind of hanging out still. Nothing too crazy. It is below yesterday's VPOC, so you do have look for resistance around 38.86. If you start breaking above it, you might have probably yesterday's highs a little bit of a rough spot. That would be 39.71. But if you could get that out of the way, you got 39.92. So some room higher, about $1. To the downside, I'd be looking for at least 37.94, but potential retest back into this 37.15. Yesterday was a retest gap. We retested perfectly on this one. It's down about, I think at some point you were down at almost 50% from the highs. Not too, it's almost 50% off discount. You get a buy one, get one free on Hood. Um, in a longer term sense, if you like it. So it is down fairly decent amount. We're just really still hanging out inside of this candle from 3 days ago. For Monday's candle, nothing's really happened. That's probably about the 618 retracement where we closed that of that candle as well. So for me, it just depends on where we're opening. I would see a little bit of chop in here first, and then if you could get a couple candles, couple retests that close above that VPOC, that would take you into again some levels up here. Bigger level would be about $40.95. It's gonna be a monster to get through. Otherwise, anything underneath it, I kind of like it's still a little pressure to the short side, especially if Bitcoin starts to dismantle. We got Walmart. Walmart is still pulling back. Again, not a fantastic open for Walmart. Retail's just been getting beat up. Everything retail's been getting hit. I think you got targets down to about 84.13 on this one. You are at a little bit of, I mean, there's not really much gap, small gap from the close. If that gets bought up, a better spot to go short would be about 85.68, but I think even from this level, you have a little bit more room to the downside. 83.97 still keeps you above that 200. Man, if we start closing below that 200, though, look out. Look out. All right, I know I'm missing a couple tickers. ETH, Ethereum. Not doing much, just strong consolidation. You have a little bit of a one green high wave candle from a couple days ago. We're just kind of hanging into that one. If you get a bounce on this one, and I know, I believe the Trumps are buying some Ethereum. So there's that sentiment. Long term, I don't know. I don't get Ethereum. I know everybody likes it. I don't. So take what I say with a grain of salt. It every second of the day it produces more Ethereum coins, so it I don't know dilutes itself essentially. But you have bigger support around 1663.99. We've already been breaking a lot of pivots. You don't have much volume to really hold you up. I don't think I have any volume on a weekly, no. Yeah, maybe if you start breaking around 2261.24, you would look decent to maybe continue a rally. But right now, it looks like catch the falling knife. And in this market, again, we're maybe some tech stocks kind of waking up a little bit, and that could be a sign that we have a little bit more starting to get to risk on environment again, which crypto is it definitely classifies as risk on type trade. So maybe you have something like that that could carry you and we start to change sentiment. But until we start changing some actual sentiment where we don't sell every rip, I'd probably stay away from this one. I think it probably comes a little bit lower from here. Wave count wise, maybe that's your one, two, three, four. I mean, this should have been your five. This should have been your ABC and it kind of broke down again. I think it still looks a little bit weak. I wouldn't be jumping in quite yet for me. See what today brings. Yep, Soundhound, SOUN. Uh, they have two strikes against them for for a longer term basis. One is Nvidia was selling some of their positions, so they're losing almost the reason they rallied. And two, AI hasn't really flipped yet. So AI has still been a struggle bus, and then SoundHound, I think, is just kind of pulling back with it. If you like it long term, and I'd have to just find out a little bit more about what they do, I'm not adding any SoundHound to my long term quite yet. For me, give me a good deal, and I'll buy it and see what happens. But I need like 625. I don't know if we can get it. Otherwise, yesterday just kind of really rejected the 200 EMA, which we broke down. Today we're opening below that 200 and below yesterday's VPOC. This one kind of still looking a little rough unless you start getting above 930, that I probably wouldn't touch it just because you can have resistance back at this 941. To the downside, I think it does offer a decent short opportunity. It's a little bit in a chop zone from the last really couple days, but maybe if you want to set a swing trade up just to see on a bearish side of things, probably some kind of entry, something like this, and then maybe throw a stop above here somewhere. That might be a decent little setup just in case. But if you get above, yeah, we're already starting to fade this one. Pre-market, the market makers are listening to me, I think. But yeah, that's still making lower lows. This is a little bounce. I think it's just a bounce to the retest, and we probably end up swinging a little bit lower. AMD also just got a little red candle in there too, pre-market. We have FNGU, FNG, nope, FNGU, not A. Oh, it changed it automatically for me, so I don't know. I don't know if this is the ticker you want, but I type in U and I'm doing it correctly. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know. It changes it over to an A, so I'm not really quite sure I've never seen that happen before. Otherwise, you're above a good volume candle on this one. Maybe an opportunity for reversal. You have a little harame in there as well. A good retest of yesterday's candle. I don't know why it keeps changing my levels over, but if you want to throw a stop in this one, 351.63, that looks decent. Maybe get some continuation on this one. Next target would be probably 455.11. Bigger target 475. So decent amount of. How was that the morning bell already? That's wild. But if you are on YouTube, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see if we get any. I think the only real lingering Russian or news is the Russia Ukraine developments. So we'll see if any of that really starts to pan out, and if we get any updates and how the market wants to react off that. But otherwise, you guys are incredible. I'll catch you guys.